from the things that I've heard, at least politically, from you, like Jaffe, like I don't necessarily agree with everything that you say, but one thing I love about you is your earnestness. It's not coming from anything else, but you actually believe it. And I think in some respects, it's kind of rare.
You're not wrong, but I can afford to be honest.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Exactly.
I can't.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Gene can't. What a
Right.
ridiculous world that we are
Yeah,
all
it's kind of
sharing.
crazy.
I am a recovering cancer patient. I need my insurance. I need this job. I'm not going to risk it by telling Colin that he's wrong about voting for whoever you want.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
although he is.
I'm noticing that, like, in most places when gaming is talked about, politics always seems to rise its head, and I feel like people actually want that to be the case.
In the games themselves, or do you mean in just game discussion on the internet?
Game discussion in general. I feel like it always seems to slide or move into a political conversation. Why do you think that is?
I feel like a lot of times it is forced in a lot of political conversations. I mean, people are more obsessed with in politics now than ever before. It's like everywhere you go. There's a million reasons why that's the case. I do find it annoying. Like, I hear people talk about like the politics of One Piece and how Luffy's a freedom fighter and he would be Antifa and stuff like that. And I'm like, shut up. It's so annoying sometimes where it gets shoved in places that just doesn't really make any sense. I guess your question though is why, and I feel like it's just because politics is shoved into everything now. It's become something that we're told that you must care, you must take a position on literally everything. I don't know. I don't personally subscribe to that belief. I think that if you're super into politics, you want to bring it into stuff, cool, but forcing it into your favorite pastime at every potential corner and shoving it down other people's throats is really annoying.
Yeah.
I would say though, I think it's as much about people that you're engaging with on social media who are politically active versus not, as it is about how literate you are about the medium, right? Because I saw this Alyssa Mercante article last night that she had written about the whole Halo thing with Master Chief and ICE and all that stuff. And you can look at Halo just like you can look at Star Wars in two ways. You can look at it and just go, dude, it's this badass soldier and it's cool. And why are you fucking people reading politics into this? And she's like, well, it is about basically a world order United Nations that's sending out super soldiers and the biggest military that we know of to kind of dominate over, quote, lesser technological people. And so it can be about both. And it just like Star Wars, if you listen to George Lucas, he says Star Wars is about the rebels were the Viet Cong. The rebels were the rebels, and they were fighting against kind of imperialism and overt capitalism and blah, 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 blah. But you certainly don't have to read it that way. But I think it would be disingenuous, though, to say, oh, you're just trying to make this that. And it's like, well, sometimes it is that. And sometimes that's the joy of looking into an art form beyond just the surface and getting to the subtext. And maybe the problem is you're dealing with people online and it's like you don't know who you're dealing with at any given time. So somebody may not want One Piece to be read that way, but the guy they're talking to may be like super hardcore into the metaphors presented in that IP.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind for me is, and I think with Last Stand, I think it made the best move moving out of, obviously because Colin was doing political content before he did Last Stand. And you look at Kind of Funny in the way that they kind of, you don't have to say anything to what I'm going to say, but like you look at how Kind of Funny was like forcefully to their audience saying, like, you have to vote for this or you have to vote for that. And I think Colin consciously came to the conclusion, from what it looks like to me, that he doesn't want to discriminate or push that type of ideology onto something that's supposed to be about fun. Most of the audience are probably listening to your content to let go of the real world. I just find it interesting, like Dustin was saying, that it just seems to seep itself into every facet, no matter what it is.
There is an element, and I agree with Jaffe, that like there is political stuff in games, and there's definitely metaphors to be looked into. Of course, the famous example is BioShock, where it's like super political game with lots of political ideas and thoughts, and it's absolutely worth looking into. And bringing up like what Last Stand believes about that, it's like we're gonna talk about and debate and have great discussions about that when it is appropriate and makes sense. And we'll talk about real world politics. We do quite regularly on Sacred Symbols when it relates to the topics. I mean, the video game industry, as everyone knows, the biggest entertainment industry in the world. Of course, politics is going to come into it, but deciding to alienate your audience or large portions of your audience being like, oh, well, if you don't think the same way as us, we don't want you here, is, I mean, quite frankly, it's a really stupid business decision, but it's also just not a way. It's not a way I want to interact. Like on a personal level, and everyone's different about this. It's like, I have political beliefs, but I don't care enough about it to make it like Dustin is known for thinking this, this, and this. And everyone can have their different levels with that. I just would hope that eventually we would get to a point that people would realize and know that it's like, hey, people have different political thoughts and ideas, and we can agree to disagree. But unfortunately, it seems like we are running in the opposite direction as a culture to become.
Well, it's hard because we are being conditioned to think like, to go, you and I have a different question on this policy is kind of the traditional way of going, agree to disagree. But there are also very real and also not real, but very amplified in order to make people money, concepts out there in the political sphere that if you don't take a side, it's a reflection of your character. And it's like, I'd rather not have you here.
That's
and
me.
I'm not saying that's right. That's wrong.
Right.
Depends on the subject, but that may also be one of the reasons that it's not, Dustin, like you're saying, it should just be agree to disagree. It hasn't been presented as much of an option lately, because if you disagree, you now, do I think some people who support certain people deserve to be called Nazis? Fuck yeah. But do I think most people that voted for Trump would want to wear a swastika and kill Jews and trans people? Probably not so much.
Right.
So
I think there's a level in culture too where it's like in the advent of social media, everyone's it feels like there's an inflated feeling of self on like what one person can do.
yeah,
That makes sense. And I'm not saying it's like, okay, like pure nihilist, like nothing matters, no one what's the point of having any beliefs? I'm not like that. But at the same time,
that's true.
yeah, it's like it gets to a point where I'm like, what's the point? Like, what do you want me to do about it? You know, like why would you hate me for something that I think, when it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just from a perspective too, where it's like, I care about political stuff, but I care way more about the people that I interact with and the people that are my friends and the people I love, that it's just like, in the context of that, it does not matter to me at all. And it doesn't matter for my content either.
Gene, you've got to have something to say about this, right? I mean, you're dealing with this right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned kind of funny being overly political, and you know, that kind of conversation, you know, with people that large, it makes people think that this is what games journalists need to do. For example, you know, and IGN had that whole letter about Palestine a couple years ago. That's just not something like a journalist organization would do. The Washington Post would never do that. Although, of course, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the mainstream media because we endorse presidential candidates, blah, blah, blah. Although the Washington Post did stop just before the election last year, famously enough. I kind of agree with both people. Again, this is why people call me a fence sitter. It's because I can't really espouse on something, because when you ask me to say something, like for example, there's a clip, Colin pulled a clip out during the election of Constellation, our conversational podcast, and this was about the election this time, right? And then Colin was kind of started by saying, you know, like we're not here to tell you who to vote for. You should vote for whoever you want, but you should vote. He's encouraging the act of voting, but he's not telling us who to vote for. And then there's a clip of me, you know, nodding like this, right? And then people take that as, look at Gene, like, you know, like the kowtowing to the fascists or whatever like that. And what the fuck am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say, no, Colin, you are wrong. You must vote for Trump, actually, or something like that,
Right.
I
Yeah,
can't
it's weird.
say that,
It's like you guys. It's like in a way you guys have this pressure. It's not. It's whether you see the pressure or not, or even give into it.
Oh, I
But
see it
like
and
the
feel it every
audience
day,
always
man.
has this pressure on you guys. I've noticed. Like, yeah, but what do you actually mean? It's like I don't really mean. I'm just talking about video
It doesn't
games,
matter
guys.
what the fuck doesn't matter what I actually think. To Dustin's point, what the fuck can I actually do politically?
Although you can't be including me in that. I wear
No, I don't think I
everything on
am,
my
yeah.
fucking sleeve.
You're very open and honest
you're
about
okay.
it. You're not like
But I can
hiding.
afford to be, which is a ridiculous type of privilege. I mean,
Right.
think about that. I financially can afford to tell you what I think. How
It is
ridiculous is that? But that's the truth. Here's where we are.
It's a weird position to be in, and I'm sure this has happened to Gene, and maybe less so Jaffe, since, as you were saying, that you're able to just say and do whatever you want. And it's not that I feel restrained, but it's funny when you see, it's like, it's not a secret probably from hearing me talk. It's like, oh, Dustin leans conservative, and then it's like, oh, people make assumptions about every belief possible for me. It's like, oh, he bows at the feet of Trump and he does this, and it's like, no, absolutely not. It's like politics, to me at least, should be extremely dynamic in terms of like individual beliefs. And it's like, I've never once subscribed to everything on any party or political spectrum ever. But unfortunately, as I was saying earlier, with the political landscape and social media now, it's like, if you are even slightly in this camp, then I'm going to choose to believe you subscribe to every aspect of it. And it's like, no, it's just not. People are way more complex than that.
The last thing I will say, though, is because you mentioned this idea of playing games to escape. It's only happened to me in the last 3 to 5 months. And I think you've seen it if you watch this channel a lot, reflected in the kind of content we're doing on this channel. But somewhere along the lines, I finally got my head around the fact that I can have and be passionate and express myself. But I also should respect the fact that when people come here and I'm advertising it as a game-centric thing, I have a responsibility, if they're going to spend their time coming to hang out with us, that's what they're there for. And it doesn't mean I pull my punches on Twitter. It doesn't mean I can't do a stream on a different channel where I'm totally trans rights or human rights and this, that, and the other. But that's not why people are here. And I should respect people's time more that come to something that I've advertised as something and not give them something else. And so I do hear that point that you bring up. And
can I say one last thing, actually?
Yeah.
One thing, like, I don't necessarily, from the things that I've heard, at least politically, from you, like Jaffe, like, I don't necessarily agree with everything that you say. But one thing I love about you is your earnestness. It's not coming from anything else, but you actually believe it. And I think in some respects, it's kind of rare.
But again, you're not wrong. But I can afford to be honest.
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
Exactly.
I can't.
Yeah, it is.
Right, Gene can. What a
need
ridiculous world that we are all sharing.
Crazy.
I am a recovering cancer patient. I need my insurance. I need this job. I'm not going to risk it by telling Colin that he's wrong about voting for whoever you want.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, although he is. The smartest thing you can do if you don't know anything about politics is stay home. That's what I would say. Doesn't mean you're not wanted, but why would you vote if you... Anyway, point is, we appreciate the call. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
See you later, man.
See you later. Yeah, clean your screen.
Yeah, it's so easy to get me started. You got to be careful.